The only way a granny game works is if you do some sort of like vertical slice and it's like, hey, here is a cool boss mechanic. We're going to focus on going into the boss fight. Or we have like a streamlined section, like End of Ember, for example, where it builds up as you go through the zones. So instead of doing that, they have like a small section of it, like, okay, you get from the start to the first boss. And it's like this contained experience where you get a idea of the game, but
Absolutely,
yeah,
Brody. I think that developers, like I myself, have been leaning more in towards the casual, the quick. I have other games that are more narrative focused, a bit more like Don't Let Him In, that are like they're one of them is called In a Moment. That's a working title. I'm not too sure if it has enough impact yet. That is, you play as a maintenance man who basically is stuck in purgatory. That's as much as I really want to reveal just now, but you're a maintenance man in purgatory. It's a first-person shooter horror game, narrative-driven.
I was gonna say that sounds like a horror game.
Yeah, it's quite cool. I think I'm really excited for that project because I have been making casual stuff for a little while now. Happy to start to put my teeth right back into the apple and do some more cutscene and like just get deeper into the narrative stuff again, because I was moving away from that, doing casual arcadey type experiences. So the plan is to get Uncle Unco out there, get Plumbo out there, and then focus back on again with a narrative experience. But for example, when I go to show off that, I'm going to have to figure out how I do that appropriately, because it will be an hour-long experience that I will probably have to just take a specific sequence that goes for like 2 or 3 minutes of, a down section, a climax, and like a jump scare. And then it goes like, if you want more sort of, and what's really cool about this conversation? It's going back to the early PS2 demo discs.
Right.
And like making those, right, for your experience at those events. So when you hand it to someone, that's what they're playing. They're playing a demo disc. My friend had the most brilliant idea for me for Avcon, and I love to say this, which is, he said to me, he goes, dude, why don't you do what we did when we were kids, where if nobody touches the controller, no one touches any input or anything, after like 30 seconds, a video starts to play of the game loop. So like Tekken or something like that, like when you don't interact with the game. And it was funny, someone's like, Mortal Kombat still does that to this day. And it's such a, I think, underutilized thing, especially at expos. Because I saw so many individuals having like a video on loop, like that they were either like swapping back and forth from. And all that sort of stuff. And you can see their Windows machine desktop, and of course I had the 2 machines, and I really wasn't planning on demonstrating Plumbo, but it just had such a fun, like people were really enjoying it, so I figured I might as well show this off at the same time. And it's really good to do that because it does give me that extra bit of encouragement just to finish it off in that sense, and so that's what I'm getting into now, because getting people to see it, it's like, this is great. Keep going, hearing that is really good. It's hard to get, so I bet there's lots of artists listening. Don't be dissuaded. Just keep working hard at your craft. People will recognize you eventually, and it's when you least think they will. So you'll be like, all the chips are down. No one's gonna watch my podcast. No one's going to play my game. No one's going to listen to my music that I'm writing. Before you know it, it does actually change, and you go, "Wow, people are here!" And they're on board with what I'm doing, and that is so encouraging, because it does happen when all the chips are down. So hypothetically, if that's you right now, and all the chips are down, and you're an artist or you're a creator, just realize there is light at the end of the tunnel. I'm still constantly reminding myself that every day, because I do have lots of projects and lots of responsibilities on, and now I'm working with other game companies and everything. But, just my friend the other day, he's like, just remember to meditate, to breathe deeply, and to get through it, and to not forget to be creative. And it's the most important thing is the art at the end of the day. It's not really about what I'm talking about now. This has been fantastic, and I love to express myself. But it's really, at the end of the day, it's about the art. It's about the games. That's the way that I am expressing myself directly to my audience. Like, you probably are expressing yourself to your audience in a different way, and we as creators have to discover that. And like, sometimes it's simple as, I painted this thing, I put it on a wall, and then people go, oh, like, and that's all that is. But, and that's all you need, as a creator. But obviously, different disciplines, we all look for that little relief moment or that little satisfaction moment within what we do within our careers and creative work. But yeah, back to the point, if you're chipsing down and you're going really hard in the paint on whatever that is, just remember that there is people do care and people like art. There's so many critics out there too. This is a good lieutenant. So many critics. Try not to be your harshest critic, but also be your harshest critic. It's just, such a weird one, right? Like, you have to be your own harshest critic, but you have to know when to let up. And I wish that real critics knew how to do that, right? Like, especially within like Steam comments and stuff like that. I am quite lucky to have received quite a good response from what I've created. I'm very lucky, and I've been working a very, very long time to try to get my games to a position where people don't hate them.
That's always good.
Yep. Because believe you me, Brody, the first 10 games I ever made, people hated them. The first 50 games I made, people hated them. Could you even call them games? I don't know, right? Like, but, after a while you do get a rhythm of it, and you're like, you know what, maybe I am like getting better at this, So, and hopefully I continue to grow, and hopefully all the other artists out there, you continue to make strides in whatever you're doing.
I think the important thing, no matter what field you're in, is actually release something. Because you'll have people say, oh, I want to make a game, I want to write a book, I want to start streaming or make YouTube videos. Do it. Stop saying you want to do it. Do it. Like, if you just sit there saying that you're gonna do it at some point, oh, if I get this ready, if I do that, or like you'll start doing something and then it's like, oh, is it ready yet? Oh, is it gonna have a good response? Just release it.
Yeah. So I was apprehensive about coming up because I haven't done this before. I am not the most confident speaker. I try my best. That's all I can do is try my best, and that's what I hope from everybody else, is that they're trying their best. But yeah, I was very apprehensive about coming on here today. I'm like, am I going to do a good job? Also because I've never done this kind of thing, and I'm warming up to it. But yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying, Brody. It's it can be a challenge.
Yeah. And there's a lot of like perfectionism, especially, where you want it to be like, that you could make this change or make this change, and you could probably keep making changes to anything you want to do, but at some point you have to say, I've done enough, this is ready, and it's time for people to see this. And finding that point, no matter what you're doing, whether it's a book, whether it's a video or game, like, it's finding that point is difficult, but you have to accept that at some point you have to just be done with it.
That is, we were having this conversation in the kitchen of the office yesterday, and it was Chad, who's been interviewed by Brody. He's part of Bad Plan Studios on End of Ember. He's also a business guru, games business guru. And he is a lecturer at AIE, and he does the GDML program there. So he's like really qualified, and he knows what he's talking about. And me and him were talking in the kitchen, and same conversation we're having right now. It's the Shia LaBeouf, like, just do it, right? Like, and there's so many ways we can get caught up in our own thoughts and our own thought processes. Like, am I going to be good on this podcast? Is my game going to be good enough for Steam? But at the end of the day, if we just try to hold a little bit of self-confidence in ourselves and knowing that like whatever happens, it's gonna be fine.
And if people don't like the game, make another game.
Dude, that is exactly. I would actually argue that if people don't like the game, like this is actually speaking to the devs, start something new rather than constantly trying to bash a dead horse. Quite literally. And like you're better off making, talking to early game devs right now. Like I said before, my first 10 games were terrible. My first 50 games were terrible. You know, God, how many games have I made? I've only got one proper one released, but it's proper. Like it's a proper game, right? Whereas everything else before that, could you really call it an actual game? Or was it more just like me experimenting with programming and learning the art form as the start of it? So yeah, definitely don't be dissuaded if it does take you 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 failed projects until you get your first project. Quite literally, you can't become a music composer overnight. It does take you over 100 songs easily. People say it takes you 10,000 hours to master something. Way more than that. I don't know who said that it takes 10,000 hours. It takes 10,000 hours to get the thing up and running. You know, it takes 50,000 to 100,000 hours of, you know, of living your life doing something, living, breathing, you know, it to do it. And, you know, being a solo dev, I do kind of take on a lot, sometimes take on too much. And like going on the discussion of like burnout territory, I can reach that point being a solo dev, but I now know that I need to figure out my capacity and diversify my time around the place, scheduling, working with people. That is going to help me immensely going forward, I think, with my particular projects, with where I'm at in my career. Anyone who's just getting into game development, my suggestion would be just to keep grinding on whatever engine you're using, whether it's Unity, Godot, Unreal. Just keep making projects. Do what Brody said, release them, get some negative feedback. Negative feedback is critical in improving. You know, the amount of times I've been told my games are dreadful, I should stop doing this for a living. You name it, you know, I've heard it all. I literally have heard it all. So, you know, and you know what, also what comes with that is really thick skin. So when someone says to you, this mechanic is jank, you don't go, oh, you go, actually, yeah, it is. You know, and like that comes only with time and experience and not being so sensitive about what you've built.